Your grocery cart is lying to you. That loaf you've been buying for years, it's gotten worse. While you weren't paying attention, bread companies switched recipes, cut corners, and started banking on the fact that you keep buying based on muscle memory and a logo you recognize as a kid. The bread aisle has become a minefield of over-processed, chemical-laden disappointments that survive purely on brand recognition and your assumption that bread is bread. It's not. So let's talk about the 8 supermarket breads that range from absolute garbage to actually worth your money. Because life's too short to waste on bread that sticks to the roof of your mouth or crumbles into your lap. Smash that subscribe button because we're about to save you from some seriously disappointing sandwiches. Number 8, Wonderbread Classic White. Launched in 1921 as America's first sliced bread, Wonderbread became a household icon for over a century. The execution today reads more like a nostalgia trap than actual sustenance. What you're getting is pillowy soft white bread that collapses under any pressure with a gummy paste-like consistency. It sticks to the roof of your mouth, requiring actual tongue work to dislodge. The texture compresses to paper thin with zero structural integrity. You're basically eating sweetened packaging material. The taste? Overly sweet with a strange artificial aftertaste and a bland chemical undertone. Here's the thing, you're looking at 140 calories per 2 slices and 180 milligrams of sodium, which is 8% of your daily intake plus 5 grams of sugar. At $2.50 to $3.50, you're paying for a brand name from the 1920s, not actual food quality. Reviewers consistently cite that it gets stuck to the roof of your mouth and has an artificial taste that wasn't remembered from childhood. The ingredient list reads like a chemistry exam with datum, monoglycerides, and high fructose. Corn syrup. And get this, Wonderbread survives purely on generational brand loyalty. They're banking on nostalgia from the 1940s fortification program when Wonderbread actually helped eradicate diseases. But today's version is mostly air, preservatives, and corn syrup with zero nutritional redemption. When the best thing you can say about your bread is that it technically doesn't expire, you've created a science experiment that belongs in a museum, not your sandwich. But if you think paying $3.50 for edible packaging is bad, wait until you meet the bread that costs half as much and somehow delivers even less. Number 7, Great Value White Bread. Walmart's store brand has been the cheapest option on shelves since the early 90s. It establishes itself as barely qualifying as food the moment you open the bag. What you actually get are strangely square-shaped slices that look wrong. The texture is dry and crumbly, disintegrating on contact. It crumbles into powder-like particles, absorbs moisture from your mouth like a reverse sponge, and leaves a chalky dry film on your tongue. The taste is bland virgin on stale even when fresh. It's like eating construction materials. 70 to 80 calories per slice with 126 to 140 milligrams of sodium, which is actually low for bread but doesn't matter when it tastes like this. At $1.50 to $2, you get exactly what you pay for. Tasters describe it as dried out and made my mouth feel dehydrated. Reddit users call it cardboard bread and say they wouldn't feed it to my dog. Bottom line, Walmart's entire strategy is be the cheapest thing on the shelf, period. They've calculated that enough people will always choose $1.50 over $3.50, even if it means eating something that barely qualifies as food. It's poverty capitalism in a plastic bag. When your bread's main selling point is its price tag, and even that can't redeem the eating. Experience your taste buds are paying a cost your wallet never will. At least Great Value doesn't pretend to be anything other than cheap. Our next bread, though, it's trading on a name that used to mean something. Number 6, Sara Lee Classic White Bread. Founded in 1935 and became a major American brand by the 50s when Sara Lee actually meant quality. Today's execution feels like a shadow of whatever the brand used to represent. You're getting dry, crumbly slices with a mealy, gritty texture like fine sand mixed into dough. There's a suspected frozen, then thawed consistency that never quite recovers. It falls apart in sad chunks when dipped and dehydrates your mouth. The taste is bland to slightly stale, even when within date with zero redeeming qualities. You're at 130 calories per 2 slices with 240 milligrams of sodium, which is 10% of your daily value. At $2.50 to $3.50, you're overpaying for mediocre quality when better options exist. One taster said, "I didn't expect that I was going to say, man, this is a bad slice of bread, but I did after trying Sara Lee's product." Another noted, "The non-crust part was mealy and gritty and quite frankly, unpleasant. The real kicker is this is a legacy brand riding on decades-old reputation. The recipe has changed to cut costs while keeping the name recognition. They're counting on you to buy based on the name on the bag, not what's actually inside. When even tasters who rank bread for a living say life is too short to eat bad bread, you know you're paying $3 for disappointment with a nostalgic label." Sara Lee disappoints quietly, but what happens when a brand wraps its mediocrity in rustic marketing and charges you $4 for the privilege? Number 5. Pepperidge Farmhouse Hearty White. Founded in the 1930s, the Farmhouse line launched to compete with artisan-style breads without actually making artisan bread. Marketing promises hearty, farm-fresh quality but delivers dense, processed mediocrity in rustic packaging. What you actually get are smaller slices with a dense, rubbery texture that requires jaw effort. There's a tight, compressed crumb structure like it's been vacuum sealed too long, dense enough to double as a hockey puck. The taste is completely flavorless. Surprisingly bland for hearty branding with no distinct character despite premium positioning. You're looking at 110 to 120 calories per slice with 180 milligrams of sodium and 4 grams of added sugar. All sugars added, nothing natural. At $3.50 to $4.50, you're paying premium price for mediocre product with clever marketing. Tasting table notes. This bread tastes completely flavorless, and you're better off selecting a loaf from a cheaper brand. Words like farmhouse and hearty create expectations the bread absolutely does not meet. What makes this particularly infuriating is Pepperidge Farm's attempt to capture the artisan trend without actually improving quality. They're counting on you not reading past the front label and trusting the farm fresh imagery to signal quality that simply isn't there. When farmhouse and hearty are the most flavorful things about your bread, you've created expensive marketing theater that costs $4.50 but delivers $2 worth of bland. If this is already saving you from a bad loaf, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss what's next. Number 4, Panera Bread Country White. Panera expanded into retail grocery bread around the 2010s to capitalize on restaurant brand recognition. For a company that makes its literal bread and butter off its namesake, this grocery store version is embarrassingly awful. What you actually get are extremely dense slices that feel more like rubber tires than bread. The tight crumb structure is heavy and lifeless. It genuinely requires excessive chewing and feels like compressed sawdust. The taste is average at best, with nothing distinctive. It lacks any character you'd expect from a brand literally called bread. 100 to 110 calories per slice with moderate sodium. At $3.50 to $4.50, you're paying premium for a brand name that absolutely does not deliver. One reviewer said, "I felt like I was biting through rubber tires." Tasting table notes. I was deeply disappointed and tastes completely flavorless. Here's where it gets tricky. This is what happens when a restaurant brand licenses its name to a mass production bakery without quality control. They're banking on you assuming restaurant quality translates to the grocery store. But this is made by a third party trying to replicate fresh bread in shelf-stable form, which is an impossible task. When the bread company can't make decent grocery store bread and delivers rubber-textured disappointment instead, something's gone terribly wrong. At least Panera's rubber tire texture is dense enough to hold a sandwich. Our next bread can't even promise you that. Number 3, Sunbeam White Bread. Sunbeam has been an American regional brand since the 1940s, competing on price and familiarity. The confusion starts when you taste it and realize it's trying to be sweet like Hawaiian bread, but has the structural integrity of a sandcastle. You're getting oddly sweet white bread with a crumbly texture that falls apart mid-chew. It crumbles like chalk breaking apart and disintegrates when you try to make it do any sandwich work. The taste is sweet, but in a confusing, artificial way with the coating on your tongue that doesn't feel natural. 100 calories per serving with 180 milligrams of sodium, which is 8% daily value. At $2 to $3, it's budget friendly, but the quality reflects that lower price point. Reviewers say the consistency is very bad, gets crumbly while being chewed, and won't work for a packed lunch. If your bread requires toasting to be functional, it's failed at its primary job. The most telling part is this regional brand is competing on sweetness that appeals to kids, but lack structure for practical use. They're targeting families who need cheap bread and don't mind that the structural integrity rivals a sandcastle. When your bread is too sweet to be savory and too crumbly to be functional, you've created a lunchbox liability that costs $2 but delivers 50 cents of usability. And if you're finding this ranking useful, hit the like button. It really helps the channel cut through the noise. Number 2, Martin's Potato Bread. Founded in 1955 in Pennsylvania by Lloyd and Lois Martin as a family business that's remained independent for over 60 years, uses potato flour to create moisture, retention, and softness that actually delivers on the like a slice from a cloud promise. What you actually get are soft, pillowy slices with subtle buttery quality and actual structural integrity. There's a slight springiness that bounces back when compressed with real butter adding richness. The taste offers subtle sweetness from potato and cane sugar that feels natural with a slight buttery finish, 90 calories per slice, with 105 to 110 milligrams of sodium, which is 5% daily value, 3 grams of sugar, and 3 grams of protein. At $3.50 to $4.50, pricing is justified by real ingredients like butter, non-fat milk, and potato flour with no high fructose corn syrup. Amazon reviews describe it as like a slice from a cloud, with loyal followers praising soft, pillowy texture and light, buttery taste. Some complain about quick molding due to fewer preservatives, but that's a badge of honor proving better ingredients. Bottom line, the potato adds moisture and softness without going full Wonderbread on preservatives. They're counting on potatoes' reputation for comfort to justify the price, and they actually deliver with real butter and better ingredients. When potato bread isn't just a gimmick but actually improves the eating experience with buttery clouds that have carb structure, you found a winner worth the $4 price tag. Martin's proves that quality ingredients matter. But what happens when a brand perfects every single fundamental? Number 1, nature's own perfectly crafted thick sliced white. Part of Flowers Foods' Nature's Own brand that became a national powerhouse by nailing the fundamentals instead of chasing trends. Won America's Test Kitchen's 2025 ranking by doing what others couldn't, making bread that actually tastes like freshly baked bread. What you actually get are perfectly squishy slices that give under pressure but spring back. Thick slice for satisfying bite without being doughy with a crust that actually has flavor. The texture is squishy in all the right ways with airy interior crumb that's structured and won't compress to nothing. The taste is lightly sweet but balanced with subtle yeasty flavor and a slightly savory finish. 120 calories per 2 slices with 210 milligrams of sodium, which is 9% daily value, and 2 to 3 grams of sugar. At $3 to $4, it delivers the best price to quality ratio. America's Test Kitchen praised it for tasted closest to freshly baked bread with pleasantly chewy texture. Other testers say squishy in all the right ways. Sporked, Eat This Not That, America's Test Kitchen, and Cheapism all rank it number 1 or 2, which is rare consensus. Here's what matters. Flowers. Foods recognize the need for sandwich bread that feels premium without pretense. They figured out the sweet spot. Soft enough for nostalgia, sturdy enough for adults, priced right for everyday use, and actually delivers on perfectly crafted instead of just slapping it on the label. When bread actually delivers with the right thickness, right squishiness, and right flavor balance instead of just claiming it, you've got the gold standard that justifies grabbing 2 loaves. You've been overpaying for nostalgia and undereating on quality. The brands that scream loudest about tradition and farmhouse values are often the ones cutting the most corners. Meanwhile, the actual winners are doing the quiet work of nailing texture, flavor, and structure without the marketing theatrics. Check the ingredient list for high fructose corn syrup and count how many preservatives you can't pronounce. The best supermarket bread is the one that actually tastes like bread, holds your sandwich together, and doesn't require toasting to be functional. Sometimes that costs $4, sometimes it costs $3. But it never costs $1.50 because at that price point, you're not buying bread. You're buying regret wrapped in plastic. Hit subscribe if this changed how you'll buy bread, and drop a comment telling us which ranking you think we got wrong.